Hello again. It feels like I'm finally starting to find my flow here in 2026. How about you? Are you beginning to get a clearer sense of your path into the new year? After some proper time off over the holidays, I've stepped back in with a really creative and energized state of mind. I'm enjoying it a lot. And I'm also being intentionally about saving this feeling, this state. So when heavier days comes, because they always do, it becomes easier to step back into this resourceful state again and again. Before we begin, I just want to say thank you. I received so many thoughtful comments and reflections from the recent episodes, and I read every single one. It means a great deal to know that these conversations don't end when the episode is done, but it continues with you. So if you ever feel like sharing a reflection, leaving a comment or a short review, you're always very welcome. It helps this dialogue to be able to grow and helps others to find their way into it too. And with that said, let's begin. Building confidence doesn't only happen on the inside. It also requires a place where you are allowed to grow. Over the past episodes, we've been moving through reflection and direction together. On Christmas Eve, I invited you to pause and reflect on what you wanted to carry forward from 2025 into 2026. On the New Year's Eve, we talked about direction, what kind of year you want to paint in 2026. And in the most recent episodes, we have connected goal settings to who you want to be and which habits will support that version of you. But there is another layer that deeply influences whether any of this will actually take root or not. And that is your environment. And today, I want to slow down and explore that with you, because even the clearest intention, strongest habits, and the most beautiful vision will struggle to grow in the wrong soil. I'm Hanna Zaxmy, your leadership coach, and this podcast is your confidence boost in color. Let's go. Think about it like this. If you're bringing a new product into the market, the environment matters enormously. Who you present it to, when, in context. Earlier in my career, I worked with large-scale IT systems for debt collection. Very robust, volume-based solutions. It would have made absolutely no sense to try to sell that kind of system to a sole trader with a handful of unpaid invoices, just as it would have been pointless to enter an organization that just had completed a 2-year implementation of a similar system. That's obvious, right? And yet, when it comes to ourselves, we often ignore that same logic. We move between environments all the time. Families, friendship, workplaces, networks, training programs, communities, interest groups. Yeah, the list can go on. Each of these environments serves a different purpose, and each one either supports our growth or quietly limits it. If my intention is to support your growth as a leader, to help you to lead yourself and others more effectively, then your environment becomes a parameter worth actively evaluating, not judging. This is one of the reasons I talk about confident leadership in color. I want to move away from leadership being seen as black and white. Instead, imagine this. Each of us, we carry a unique palette of colors, just like an artist. Your strength, experiences, values, perspectives, they are all colors on that palette. In your other hand, you hold your tools, like brushes, bottles, techniques. the way you apply those colors onto your leadership canvas. Whether you consciously claim it or not, you are a leader. And if you're listening to this podcast, chances are you already know that. No two palettes are the same. And no meaningful painting is ever created with just one color. Which brings us back to environment. Because the question becomes, where are your colors truly seen, valued, and allowed to blend with others? So let me take you back to my time as an IT director. During the recruitment process for that role, I was asked to complete yet another personality assessment. I've done so many over the years, DISC, Myers-Briggs, and yes, several others. I'm naturally curious, so I enjoy them. They often offer useful perspectives. But I'm also skeptical. No test can ever say, this is who you are. What surprised me this time was not the result itself, but how it was presented. It wasn't black and white. It wasn't about labels. It created nuances. It opened a dialogue. When I later spoke to my former manager, who was also acting as a reference, he commented on the same thing. That the picture painted was richer, more layered, more human than he'd seen before. In other tests, I mean. So fast forward a bit. Once in role, I forced a major leadership task, building a new team. Half of the existing team were on their way to other roles, and I needed to recruit extensively. One key role was a team lead. I didn't want to copy myself. Honestly, how boring would that be? I needed someone who complemented me. So I did something slightly unconventional. I used the same personality framework as a shared language with the recruiting firm. I showed where I was the strong and where I needed someone different, which colors I already had plenty of and which were missing from the palette. When we reached the final candidates, it was incredibly clear. The process was shorter, the match stronger. I later applied the same thinking across the wider recruitment process. I took the first interviews myself, not to control, but to ensure diversity of strengths, perspectives, and experiences. The result? The team with different genders, ages ranging from early 20s to early 60s, multiple nationalities, and most importantly, a rich mix of competence and experience. 1 year later, the team received the company's award for Team of the Year. And I'm deeply proud of that, because we didn't succeed by being the same. We succeeded because we made each other better. So this is where self-leadership comes in. Knowing your strong colors, knowing your weaker ones, and knowing where you need to be complemented. Leadership isn't about pretending you have no limitations. It's about knowing them and designing around them. That's why in interviews and coaching conversation, I care more about awareness than perfection. Skills can be learned. Attitudes are harder to shift. And the same applies to you. One of my own reflections from 2025 is this. I need to make more active choices about my environment. Sometimes that means stepping out. Sometimes it means stepping in more fully. Not every environment is meant to be permanent. Some are there to teach us something, and then we move on. I've noticed moments where I become quieter, more withdrawn. Not because I lack confidence, because the environment no longer invites my colors forward. In those moments, there are only two options: change the environment or leave it. Neither is failure. Both are leadership. Let's pause here. I'd love to offer you a few questions to reflect on. Honestly, gently, and courageously. You might want to pause the episode, journal, or simply sit with them. These are the questions. In which environments do you feel most alive? Where your colors naturally comes forward? Where do you notice yourself shrinking, going quiet, or holding back? Which environments helps you to grow? And which ones drain your energy? Are there places you're staying out of habit, loyalty, or fear rather than growth? What kind of people make you better? And who do you want to make better in return? If you were to consciously choose environments for the next chapter of your leadership, what would be similar and what would be different? Remember, growth is not only about effort, it's also about placement. For me, leadership is deeply relational. I want to work in teams and communities where we say we make each other better, where differences are valued, where confidence grows because it's mirrors, supported and challenged with care. And I want that for you too. You don't have to bloom everywhere, but you deserve to bloom somewhere. So choose your soil wisely. If you'd like to explore this further or reflect more deeply on your leadership palette and environment, you're always welcome to connect with me. You find the links and resources in the episode description. Be confident, be you, shine your colors.